What is going on? I'm that Scottish Nerd, and I bring you Theme Deck Tuesday every single Tuesday, so be sure to subscribe down below if you enjoy these videos, or check out the playlist if you want to see the previous ones. And in this week's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the starting deck that you get once you make an account on the online game here, and seeing how it stacks up against some of the other players and their decks. Of course, if you are new and you're playing this deck, I would recommend going over here to this first tab where you can access the Trainer Challenge. This is all computer opponents and AI. The AI is pretty terrible in this game, so I'd highly recommend starting here to earn yourself some coins and a couple of packs as well, but mostly those coins because you can take those into the store and buy yourself a decent theme deck at least that's actually going to be competitive, and you can check out my other videos to see which ones are good and which ones aren't so good. So here is the main versus ladder. You can see I have a lot of theme decks from all of the coins I've collected, so this is where we're going to be playing and trying out the starting noob deck featuring Glade and Miltank and a bunch of other close attackers. Now, quickly showing off the contents of the deck, the beginner's deck that you first get when you make an account on the Pokemon TCG Online game here. This is what you're going to be using when you run through that trainer challenge, or if you do want to try and take onto the versus ladder, then so be it. But the main attacker that you have in the deck here is the Glade. It does have this first attack, which is pretty good, Powerful Storm, deals 20 damage for each energy that you have in play. So this can ramp up, but it is going to take a lot of turns to get enough energy into play, which is the main issue holding back this deck. Although it does also combo nicely with the Miltank with Powerful Friends, so a lot of powerful attacks, or attacks with powerful in their name, which aren't actually that powerful, if you get what I mean. But this does 80 damage if you have a stage 2 in play, and for 1 energy is very efficient, so this is good, but it does require a stage 2 in play, so it's going to take multiple turns. And then you also have some consistency in the form of Hoot Hoot, allows both players to draw 2 cards, but is mandatory, so you are going to be helping out your opponent quite a bit. And then the other main attacker that I like in this deck is the Furfrou, as you do have a chance of paralysing your opponent. We do have some other Pokemon which can potentially paralyze, or the Swoobat can get energy out of the deck on a coin flip, so some varied attacks, but mostly with coin flips, and Gallade is going to be the main attacker overall. As for the trainer cards, we have 2 Escape Rope, we've got the Great Balls and Evil Soda to have some sort of search. I mean, it's not a lot of search in this deck overall. The main searching stuff is the Great Ball and Evil Soda, as well as the Pokemon Fan Club, but other than that, the draw cards are near enough non-existent. Almost a third of the deck is energy, and it's going to be extremely consistent and slow, as you can see and as I mentioned. So let's get into the matches against real players, and be sure to give this video a like, as it really helps me out and helps with my frustration with these old decks as well that I have to deal with, as you guys seem to enjoy these videos too. Alright, match 2. Not quite sure what deck my opponent is playing here. They have the Wooloo and some Score Bunnies, so I'm guessing it is the Cinderace deck. It's going to be an interesting game. We don't have a whole lot going on here. I guess we'll go for a Professor's Letter. Start attaching some energy onto our Miltank, since it does have a decent amount of HP, and we have a lot of ways of healing as well. So we'll go ahead and put our Swoobat into play, and we'll pass over to my opponent. Like I said, looking to just attach to our Miltank, get enough energy on to actually deal 60 damage every turn. My opponent's also attaching to their Wooloo, and they go for a Great Ball, looking for some more Pokemon on their side of the board. Most likely just some evolutions to get into the Cinderace, but they also get the Drampa here, which is a very efficient attacker for them. As this, we'll have a look at it here. It does 80 damage for just 2 energy. You do have to discard the top 2 cards of your deck, but 80 damage for 2 energy is very efficient, and you don't really care about the discard in the theme deck format, since a lot of the decks are going to be mostly energy anyway, so you're not too fussed there. It's extremely efficient, and we did also see the reboot coming out from my opponent there, so they'll have that for this following turn. And we can attach onto the Miltank, and I think we'll just be attacking only doing a little 10 damage, a little bit of a tickle, if anything, to my opponent, but at least on the following turn we can do our 60, and this Wooloo does have 70 HP, so that 10 damage is actually going to be very relevant here in terms of getting a knockout on this following turn. And like I said, we do have plenty of ways of healing. But oh man, it looks like my opponent has the Dubwool coming down here. They have 130 hit points now, as well as a Cotton Guard, which reduces damage by 30. So things just got a lot more difficult to deal with since my opponent is going to be reducing damage. We can use the potion on our Miltank here. Don't really want to be using an escape rope just yet, I don't think. I think we'll hold off on that and we'll just deal our 30 damage. Kind of want to use an escape rope and then switch, or like retreat I mean, but even then I think if we just use an escape rope then we're not going to be able to attack into the Dubwool, so let's hold off on that. My opponent is able to get a bunch of Pokemon into their hand though. They can get the Cinderace set up here pretty quickly, although they don't have much else going on in their hand. They don't have the energy in order to actually get anything going there. So let's go ahead and start attaching onto the bench, I think, and we can once again just hit our opponent for the minuscule 30 damage, but at least we're doing some damage. It's better than nothing, and my opponent is also doing 30 damage on their end, so we'll take it. And we do have the Pokemon Center Lady. My opponent top decks the Hop, so they're able to draw 3 cards, and they are attaching to the active, so that's going to allow them to get the knockout here. So in hindsight, maybe I should have used the Center Lady, but they're doing a bunch of damage anyway to get a knockout, so it wouldn't have actually made a difference. And we do have a Furfrou that we top deck, which is nice, and we'll put in another Swoobat. Let's go ahead and go for the attack, see if we can get some heads. Nice, we get the double heads. That is going to deal 20 damage. If my opponent wants to attack us with the secondary double edge again and get the knockout, they're going to do 30 damage to themselves, which KOs them, so that's quite nice. But of course they could also just start going into the first attack and using Cotton Guard once again to reduce damage. We'll have to see. They get the Professor's Research. That's going to draw them a lot of cards here and definitely be able to see the energy that they need, because you really want to be attaching an energy every single turn in Team Deck format if you want to keep up and have a constant stream of attackers. And that is the main thing that this deck really struggles to do. My opponent did opt to knock themselves out though, so that's pretty good. We get a prize card and there is an energy at least. But yeah, despite the fact that most of our deck, I'd say what, a third, half of the deck nearly, is energy cards. Yeah, it's 20 energy in this deck, so you'd think having 20 energy we would draw a lot of it, and we are now, since we actually got a supporter card, but for the most part you're not going to be able to consistently get the cards that you need, and that is why all of these newer theme decks within the last couple of years have been much better, because they have a lot of means for consistently drawing. I mean, even a Hop, Hop, Tierno, drawing 3 cards, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you have 4 copies in your theme deck, it is actually quite a bit of draw potential. We get into another Furfrou, which is actually reasonable, and we can also make use of our Pokemon fan club. So we do have some search going on here that we can make use of. I think I'll just draw the double rolls here, I think. We could also get Hoot Hoot as a nice option, but getting the double Glade into play would be excellent if that's a possibility. So we'll go with that, and we can make use of our escape rope, get that Drampa out of here, and hopefully start paralyzing our opponent and stalling for as long as possible, preferably. So let's see what Pokemon my opponent chooses to promote here. They could most likely just go with the Sudowoodo, as that has a nice attack in order to draw cards, as well as also dealing damage based on the damage counters already on it. So yeah, that's exactly what they're going to go with here, and we will be using our Furfrou, but hopefully they can't attack us back because we are looking to paralyze, and yes, there we go, we get the heads. So my opponent Sudowoodo is paralyzed. They're going to be needing a switch or a Pokemon Center Lady of their own in order to get out of this paralysis. We see the bead as well as the attachment onto Drampa. So that bead's going to be accelerating energy onto the Cinderace, and they do have the switch in hand. So all of our attempts are futile. At the very least, my opponent does only hit us for 80, and Furfrou is nice and bulky, and he has 90 HP, so we're 10 short of getting knocked out there, and we can start attaching onto our other Furfrou. Not going to be worth healing up our Furfrou though, I don't think. I mean, we can take a look at my opponent's Cinderace here. It's going to be dealing 40 or 160, and they do almost have the energy here to deal 160, so I don't think it's going to be worthwhile to actually go for the Pokemon Central ID. And we do unfortunately get the tails on the coin flip, so we're not able to paralyze again, which is really the main thing that we were looking for there, is just constantly get heads, just, paralyze my opponent to the end of time, or until they deck out at the very least. At that point we would win, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case, and of course that is just always the odds and the luck that you have to play with. So my opponent is just going to be going crazy with Drampa, discarding their whole deck for us, but they are also in the process of that dealing 80 damage, which is going to get plenty of knockouts all over the place. Let's see what they pick up. They're taking a while to take a prize card here. I don't know, maybe they have some information that we don't have. Maybe they have X-ray vision and they can see their prize cards, or maybe they played an invisible town map to flip their prize cards over. Who knows, but they finally take a prize card, going down to 3 cards remaining, or 3 prize cards remaining. And we're just going to be going for the same strategy here. We do get another Curlia, but there's not much else that we can really do, especially since that Cinderace is in the back. We could have gone for the escape rope, but the Cinderace would just get promoted and would deal significant damage in terms of getting knockouts. So they're going to be attaching to their Pokemon again. Our hand is pretty abysmal. We don't have any ways of drawing, or don't even have energy at this point. My opponent is hitting us for 80 again, continuing to discard their deck. And we top deck the roller skates. Let's see what we get. We do get the heads. Nice. So we can draw 3 cards off of that. We get the Great Ball here, and that gets us into a Gallade. It's going to be a futile effort though, I think, because we don't really have enough turns here to actually get enough energy into play. Again, why not, we'll heal up. Like I said, it's not going to be relevant at any point, so we might as well do it for the sake of it. See if we get paralysis this time. No, it's going to be tails again. I think we used up our luck on the roller skates there, getting heads on those, so the game is going to decide that it's going to give us a tails on the paralysis. And all the while my opponent is just building up another Cinderace in the back there. Interesting, they go for a Professor's Research. They only have 7 cards left in their deck, so they may wish to switch or even retreat Drampa at some point. They're going to go for a Pokemon Catcher, bring up our Gallade. So as if as if we weren't screwed enough already, they've got the Pokemon Catcher to bring up Gallade. We can get a knockout on the Drampa at the very least, so we could go for that, I suppose. Why not? It means that we're actually taking a second prize card in this game, so I'll take that. And we go down to 4 prize cards remaining. My opponent also only has 5 cards left in their deck, so I mean, if they choose to draw cards, then they could potentially deck out, but with the Pokemon that they have set up here, I'm guessing they've got plenty of turns in order to take all of their knockouts that they need here. They are attaching a 4th energy onto the Cinderace, as it does have to discard energy when it attacks here, I believe. Or is it not? No, it flips a coin, and then if it's heads, then you have to discard, or tails, sorry, you have to discard 2 energy. But they got lucky, and they got the heads, so hopefully we get lucky as well here, and we're able to flip heads for paralysis. We again top deck the Gallade, which is pretty insane, and we're just going to go and do our 20 damage once again, and of course we get tails, because why would we get anything else? It's only ever my opponent that's going to get heads, or we're going to get heads for roller skates, I guess. But yeah, not super great outcome. My opponent's getting some more Pokemon into play that they can attack with, and dealing 160 again. Let's see if they get tails. Nope, of course they get heads, so they don't even have to discard any energy from their Pokemon there. We can promote a Gallade, hoping that we can do some additional damage, but doesn't look like we even get that. we just get a great ball that we can pull a Pokemon out with. Not that it's going to be relevant, and I guess, yeah, they can hit me for 160. They have another Cinderace in the back, so that's going to be game for my opponent. We'll pass it over to them, but they get the knockout here. They only had 2 cards left in their deck as well, but like I said, that's the power of Drampa. They don't really care about if they discard half their deck because they're going to be doing significant damage in order to get all of the knockouts that they need. And they're even going to BM us here and play out their hand rather than just going for the knockout. But there it is, another game lost. They finally get the tails, but it doesn't matter at this point as they've taken all of their prize cards. Let's get into one more match and see what we can make happen. Starting off our last game here, we are up against a bit of an older deck from the Sun and Moon era, which is nice to see. And we actually have a reasonable start here considering our energy, and we have an Evosoda to get a Carlia out and into play. My opponent is starting off with a How to draw 3 cards, and they also have the Powder Snow, Alolan and Vulpix, which can be a little annoying because they can just put us to sleep for free, but for some reason they're opting not to do that, which is fine by me, I'll take it. And we can get into our Swoobat, we even get the Evosoda like I said, getting into a Curlia, and now all we need is the Gallade. We could draw 3 here, but I'm actually going to go in with the Swoobat and start trying to flip some coins and get some energy into play. If we can get a bunch of energy into play, that's going to help us when we do get the Gallade out, as well as also just thinning the deck. So let's go, we'll flip coin, and it's tails unfortunately, so let's try and flip again next turn and hopefully get a heads. Hopefully my opponent doesn't put us to sleep either, that would be ideal. They go for the timer ball, getting double tails on their end as well. You love to see it. I'm glad my opponent is just as unlucky as me. And they are going to be attaching and flipping ahead, which is going to be protecting them from damage. And there we go, we top deck the Gallade. That is what I want to see. We can even attach the energy to it as well. I'm still going to go for this. And we get the tails anyway because getting that energy into play is going to be crucial for dealing as much damage as possible with our Gallade here. Of course, just a reminder, it does deal 20 damage for each energy that we have in play. So if we can get a bunch of energy into play, we're going to be doing a huge amount of damage against my opponent. We get a Miltank into play, which is excellent as well, since that does extra damage if we have a stage 2. There we go, the odds are in our favour finally. We get 2 energy into play. We're going to put 1 onto the Miltank, as well as the Hoot Hoot, why not? Give everyone some energy to work with, so that's very good. But unfortunate that we only get to put 2 energy into play, considering that we have to flip a coin. I'd really love if it was like 3 energy. I mean, there's other stage 1 Pokemon that allow you to get 3 energy into play just as it is without a coin flip, but come on, roller skates, yes, that's definitely what we needed there in order to get some more stuff going. We can go for a Pokemon fan club, and let's see what we have available. I think we'll go for the Skitty, so that we can get a Delcatty out at some point, as well as the Miltank. I could also go for the Furfrou. I do like myself a bit of Furfrou, but we'll just settle for this for now, I think. Although we could also go for the Ralts actually. Get a second Gallade out. I mean, it is in the deck, so let's go with that. We'll take the second Miltank and second Ralts. And then we can also Great Ball here to thin the deck. And see if we get any good evolutions. Unfortunately not, so I guess I'll just take either one. It's not going to make a difference. And we'll once again start trying to set up the rest of our board, but of course we got a tails. What's that, like 4 tails on that attack now, and 1 heads, so definitely not some great probability there, but it looks like my opponent is also dead drawing. Getting the double tails on that timer balls really set them back quite a bit. We can just continue to build up energy on our side of the board. Don't really care if this bat gets knocked out, as it is only 1 energy that we're losing, and we even get the Professor's Ladder here as well, which is excellent. Getting 2 psychic energy out of the deck. I'm going to be putting 1 onto the rolls. And then let's go and flip a coin again. Let's see. Again, we get a tails. That's 5 tails that we've had now. Sure, they've not all been in a row, but man, 5 attacks. Been playing for many turns, because I don't think we attacked. We went first and we didn't attack, so we've been going for 6 turns now, and 5 of those have been tails, or something like that, something ridiculous. Anyway, extremely triggered by this deck, if you couldn't tell already. Oh man. If opponent gets the Professor Kukui, which is going to increase their damage if they choose to attack us, they also get to draw 2 cards off of it as well, which is good for them. And they again get the head, so they're invincible for this coming turn, or this turn right now I suppose. We're not able to deal any damage to them, so we'll just continue to attach and go ahead and flip, I guess, since we can't deal any damage to them anyway. And of course it doesn't matter, because it is of course a tails once again. My opponent is going to be drawing, they're attaching a 3rd energy, so they're able to deal 30 damage here. Pretty crazy, this has a 3 energy attack cost just for dealing 30 damage. That's pretty insane, but we'll go for a Pokemon Center Lady. I don't see why not. And I'm actually going to retreat here. I feel like we have enough energy in play at this point. And we can even reattach as well. Why not? Now we can start dealing some big damage to my opponent. We're at 140 right now. And hopefully we can keep drawing some energy, so that number is only going to increase from here. Sure, I could have gone in with the Miltank and started dealing 80 damage at a time. That would have been sufficient, but getting some big damage in is pretty satisfying, especially when my opponent is looking to get some evolutions into play. And they are getting an attachment here on their Heatmore. Of course, this does have 110, so the Miltank wouldn't be able to get a knockout on it. My opponent is burning us, but we're able to cure that, and we even get the potion off at the top that we can use to heal, so that's awesome. And now we can get a knockout on my opponent's Heatmore, dealing 140 once again. Still really looking for the next evolutions for another Gallade, getting that into play. I can't remember if there's another Evil Soda, to be honest, but even just drawing into something that will get us towards the Curlia and then the Gallade itself, that would be great. My opponent is just trying to do the exact same thing here with their evolutions. They're going to be confusing us, which is not ideal. Would certainly love to have held on to my Pokemon Center Lady, but not to worry, we can flip some coins, who knows. Let's go ahead and attach to the rolls, I guess. Let's have a look at the retreat cost. We have a 2 retreat cost, so that doesn't seem like a good idea to retreat, but we can just keep building up energy and go for the coin flip. Of course, we're going to get tails because that's all we've had all game. I was kind of optimistic there and hoping that we'd actually get heads, but I guess I just really shouldn't have been, since now my opponent is going to be dealing 60 damage to get a knockout, and they're also dealing damage to our benched Pokemon, which I did not appreciate whatsoever. So we're going to be sending up a bat, I guess. I was almost going to send up a Miltank, but forgetting, of course, the Gallade just got knocked out, so that's going to be completely useless now. And I guess we can just start attacking for damage. It's probably the best course of action. I guess we can get another bat into play as well, so we'll go with this. Put a Swoobat up and start dealing 30 damage. My opponent is dealing a significant amount of damage here. Let's have a look. They're doing a total of 60 and then 2 to our benched Pokemons. So yeah, that's not the best. They also get the heal. Big Malasada healing 20. And here we go. They're dealing 20 damage to our bench. We really need an energy off the top here. That's what I'm hoping for. Let's promote the Hoot Hoot. We can always retreat it, since it does have a 1 retreat cost. And yeah, but unfortunately we've not got the energy that we need. So at least doing this, my opponent's going to be forced to do the sniping damage onto our Miltanks. And we can always put down another Hoot Hoot here. So let's go. We are having to give our opponent 2 cards, but at least we can get the energy. We have the Curlia here as well, which is great. So we can work towards getting that Gallade. And we're just near enough. Not out of it yet. I mean, we're still tied for prizes. My opponent is still struggling to get energy attachments and the evolutions that they need to get the Timer Ball. And they get 1 head this time, which is pretty reasonable, considering it was so bad the last time. they're grabbing themselves a Kingdra here. And here we go, of course going for the 60 damage for knockout, and then 20 to our bench Pokemon. And I'm just going to be promoting the Curlia, I think. My opponent doesn't really have a lot of options here. They have the Alola Ninetales, which could deal 80, which into a Curlia would get a knockout here, so that doesn't seem great. Kind of want to just put up a Hoot-Toot, to be honest, and draw some cards. It's probably the best course of action since it will protect our Glade here while we get it set up. So let's go with that. Attached to the active, and we have our Glade for the following turn that we can start swinging with. We do have those energies in play from earlier at the very least. My opponent also getting to draw here, so really helping them out just as much as ourselves. And we're also really struggling for energy, only really getting one energy at a time, and not getting it every turn is not what you want to see at all. My opponent gets into a house, so they're able to draw even more cards here. Going down to 21 cards left in their deck, so quite a substantial amount. Usually by this point in the game we've had, what, 10, 12 turns now, something like that. Usually the decks would be a lot smaller by now, but these are older decks, so you're going to see this kind of thing happening. My opponent has the Wishful Baton. That is really frustrating to deal with. If you're not familiar with the Wishful Baton, they get to move all of the energy from this Pokemon onto one of their benched Pokemon when this Pokemon gets knocked out. So them getting to keep all that energy is not going to be good at all. They do go down to 2 prize cards remaining. We were really hopeful here because we took an early lead and we took so many prizes early on, but now not so hopeful. We do have our Miltank at least. Going to be attaching onto the Ralts and just attacking our opponent. I guess we'll put the Skitty into play as well since we have the Delcatty. We'll go for a Powerful Friends. Not even getting a knockout here as my opponent has 100 HP, so we're actually 10 damage short of getting a knockout, and they're going to be able to get another knockout on our Miltank as well as build up additional damage. And all we can really do is go in with either the Miltank or the Glade here, since those are the only attacking options that we have available, unfortunately. No matter what we promote, my opponent is going to get a knockout on them, so I guess we'll just go for a big knockout with our Glade and deal as much damage as possible, just as a last hurrah for the deck. And the very futile attempt that we had to try and win some games. At the very least, we did take some prizes in these matches. I think this is the one that we've done the best at, pretty sure. So taking 3 prize cards in this game, and like I said, my opponent is going to be able to promote near enough anything to get a knockout here, since we do already have 40 damage on us. We only have 100 HP remaining, so they just need to deal an attack which does that. And they also have the Semaphore here, which deals 50, and they can move energy. But yeah, I mean, they have the Kingdra, which I would have thought they could have promoted as well, since it does deal a bunch of damage, 90 damage to a benched Pokemon, or even the active. So doing that to the bench would have been enough to get a knockout on a bunch of our Pokemon actually. So interesting that they promoted a Pokemon that's not going to win them the game. And we can at least deal some extra damage here. The Semaphore has 90 HP, so we can actually take an additional prize card, which I ain't complaining about. And we get a Tierno, not drawing us anything too crazy. We're just attached to our Delcatty, and I mean, even if we retreat, like I said, they have the Kingdra that they can use to get knockouts with, so at the very least we go down to 2 prize cards remaining, but it shows that you have to be up against an equally old and inconsistent deck in order to even do well with this starting deck here. And it really is a showing of why they need to update this game and update the beginning deck, as well as just a bunch of things in general, like having more products in the shop that you can purchase rather than just packs and decks. I think would go a long way to making this game a lot more fun and interesting as well, since we did have more products when the game first came out. But there we go, another loss with the deck. We at least took 4 prize cards with the deck in that game, so I'm happy with that. That's probably the best that you're ever going to get with the deck in terms of an online match. The only other time is if you're in, say, a mirror match or someone else playing an even older deck. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. I certainly got a load of frustration from it, as always playing these old decks, so be sure to give it a like for those reasons, and I'll see you in the next video.